Thanks here. Okay. All right. So good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the OSBA Executive Committee. So it is 4:02 p.m. So I do hear a motion to. So we do need to make an adjustment to the agenda. In Jim's absence, we need to move item 3 down on the agenda. So we'll just move that to. We can move it to petition. Move it down a petition, or we could just move it. We'll just reconvene that discussion item when he comes. So we'll just skip it.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
I think it is urgent to at least address it in this meeting, and since Emily and Linnell are here, they may transmit comments that we need to do in terms of some of the concerns that he raised in the email. So I would recommend at least we, as a committee, make any comments about it first, and if it comes back, we may bring it back. So we table it until he comes back.
Okay. Scott, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the modification being that we move item 3 until Jim has been able to attend the meeting.
Thank you, Scott. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Emily. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented? Discussion.
I would like, Madam Chair, to modify the motion without objection, that if Jim does not come into the meeting within the half an hour, we bring it to the table. So if he's not here, at least we need to address it. And just to speak to the sentiments of this thing, we have really important duty to care for our executive director, and he shared some concerns about his health. And we want to make sure we have clear directive on how to support him with his health. So I would not like to table it in a way where we may not address it if he can't make it to the meeting.
Okay, noted. So do I hear a motion to approve with the additional comments from Sammy? Emily?
Seconded.
Okay.
I just for Linnell's sake, and I know that Jim is normally the one who helps with this, and so I've sort of struggled with what my role is here. But for cleanness in the motions, I think I would prefer that you either vote that down and redo a motion rather than editing a motion. It just makes it very messy when Linnell tries to then do the minutes that get put out to the public. So just wanted to note that.
Thank you, Emily. If I may, I'd like to modify my motion that we move. I approve the motion. I approve the agenda with modification that agenda item 3 be tabled until Jim is present, unless that time exceeds 4:30, and then the present members of the executive committee can discuss accordingly. But I would, with the notion that we not have a thorough conversation until Jim is present.
Thank you, Scott. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. So I will start first with just making a comment that in my time on the board, it's just been a great deal of pride in serving in a leadership capacity. I've enjoyed thoroughly working with Jim. I have a great deal of respect for him and concern for his welfare and well-being. The email was really hard for me to read. It took me a while out of care and concern for him through this process, everything that's happened in the last few weeks. I've been very concerned, and I'm very supportive of addressing his needs and his concerns and doing what's best for him and for the organization. And I have nothing but best thoughts towards him and the work he's done. I consider him a dear friend. So I just want to start with that. Happy to have anyone else share their thoughts.
Just want to share support to the sentiment. Thank you, Sonia.
Any other comments? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item 4, outside counsel and communication. So I'm going to start with my comments first. So Okay, so this is in response to your email, Scott, and so I have I will just read my response. Outside counsel and communications item 4. All right, so the intention of reading, hold on, that's the wrong one. Okay. Let's see. Make sure I have the right information here. Okay, so this is in regards to something in your email. So I'll say that the intention of reaching out to, and I think this is in regard to reaching out to additional counsel. Is that right, Scott? You received a notification, so I'm going to respond to that.
Yes, Madam President, sorry to interrupt, Madam President. I guess twofold. One is just engagement with outside counsel and the authority with which those engagements occurred, given that it did not go to the executive committee.
Right. So I will say the intention of reaching out to insurance was to make an inquiry. We did not make a claim. I believe that I am following the policies at this time. We have, and I will share that we have an item relating to the interaction with the insurance claim adjuster. And so my response is I cannot disclose the nature of the claim at this time. But it was done with the intent of making an inquiry, just getting an idea of what potentially we could be, what that support might look like if needed. So let me take a look at my notes here to be sure that I'm reading everything I should be. In regards to
Sonia,
that.
I'm sorry. I would like to admit Jim into the meeting, but I wanted to let you know that I was doing so.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim.
Sonia?
Yes.
Do you mind if we table this until we table this and we move to the first agenda item that we table until Jim comes in, so we can start with that one?
Okay, let's do that.
There's no objection.
Okay, so we will table that and move to our first item, which is to consider executive director requests. Jim, are you? I don't see, he's unmuted. Okay. So Jim, we wanted to first and foremost, the meeting was scheduled in response to the email communication we received. We wanted to provide some time to have you share with us your concerns that you stated in your communication to the executive committee. And you know, one of the last statements in your email was that you weren't sure how to proceed with the matter, but you would you assumed that as executive committee you would need to meet and discuss any options moving forward. And so we want to provide space first to share our appreciation for the work that you've done, but also provide space for you to share whatever it is you need to share or what you might need from us moving forward, or whatever that may be, whatever that conversation needs to be. We wanted to provide space for that. So with that, well, I'm happy to have, if you'd like to speak to the communication, and then we'll have other members of the committee also speak to that.
Thank you. I think the email speaks for itself in a lot of ways. The issues around this have caused me no uncertain amount of mental, physical, and emotional anguish. The lack of communication has been something that I've never experienced before, and I think is unfair to me. And my contract was not honored. The board and executive director operating agreements were not honored. I feel that over the course of my career at OSBA, I have put this association first for far too long now, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I was not treated well. That's all.
Sammy?
I just want to say, I'll have a minute. I'm sorry. No, I want to say, Jim, thank you for sharing your concerns. And I hear it's in your voice, your passion, your dedication. Oregon children really, really owe you the work you do and you continue to do. And board members from every corner from Oregon sing your praises, rightly so. And I had my thoughts about, I wanted to share, but really you hit my heart with what you said. And I want to say I hear you, and I want to make sure we support you if there is any opportunity for us to continue to do so. So I'm gonna share a few thoughts, Jim, but really take it with sincere gratitude for many things. And I'm not gonna list the accomplishments as a farewell, but as a gratitude, because I heard you encourage us to consider a separation agreement, and I want to center myself around the leadership that you bring to the community, and the organization is so dearly needed, especially right now. And I know you're working with the situation about the strike. People need you, and they continue to value you, and we do, and I understand how you're perceiving that experience it is. And with no light terms, the whistleblower process, no matter what it is very frustrating inherently in terms of how people need to navigate it, and how it might be perceived, or if it needs to be reviewed because it might not have been followed thoroughly. All of that need to be addressed. And the fact that this happened, it just it elevates the need that we need to discuss trust. And you did say that, and you did mention trust in two factors. Number one, trust of your staff in you, and number two, trust of the leadership of the association in you. And my understanding is you talked about your well-being and you talked about trust on those two dimensions, and your frustration with the whistleblower process, and which we need to address definitely. And I want to start with the most important priority here, is what your well-being. And I want to just reflect on how my bosses treated me in the past when I had hard time or when things did not go well. That is to ask, are you okay? And I hear it in your voice. You're not okay. You're not, to say the least, it's not going well. And my question, or my ask of you, if there is an opportunity to consider that you want to continue and the separation agreement, you might want to revisit it, what can we do as an employer to support you, whether it is sick leave, paid leave in addition or in excess to your contract, whatever it is you need, so you can take care of yourself, your health, and come back recharged. And I want to really sit with that one first before we talk about the trust. We talk about the whistleblower process or the consideration of separation agreements. If we need to talk about any of those, they come next to your well-being. But I just want to lean in and say, the association leadership, at least I speak on behalf of myself, trust you and continue to trust you. And with that, I want to sit back and say, what do you need?
I don't know, Sammy. I have poured my heart and soul into this association
No.
for 27 years. And I can't do it anymore. My blood pressure is through the roof. I'm not sleeping at night. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It's important that we want you to be well. We want you to take care of yourself. We want you to do what's best for you. I will share that I don't think I've ever had as much anxiety in the past 7 days that I've had. When I received your email, I was screaming and crying because this is not what I wanted. It was not the intent. I honor you, my friend. You are my friend, Jim. I admire you. I have followed the process by counsel, and it's never, ever had anything to do with you. And I treasure what you brought to the state and to this organization, a deep appreciation for what you've done. And I haven't slept in a week either. So it's been very difficult. There's nothing more painful than not being able to communicate with a friend and a colleague that you love and admire. I can't explain that kind of pain. But what's more important than my pain is I want to be sure that you are okay. And I want you to know that I value and I respect you. This was never about an attack on you. I would never, ever stand for something like that. So I am here. I want to do what's best, and I want to honor what your wishes are. I only want what's best for you and for OSBA.
I can't answer that, Sonia. I have to talk to my wife. I have to talk to my family.
Okay.
I have to put me and them first, and I've never done that.
Thank you, Jim. May I? Jim,
Go ahead, Sam.
I want to ask you, do you need a break this weekend? And I know it's the most important weekend for the association, but you are more important than that. Do you feel okay to go to the convention? Or do you need a break?
Sammy, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I have to talk to Amy.
Please.
And I've got to do some self-reflection because I am not in a good place emotionally, physically, or mentally right now.
Please. Yes.
I as I said in my email, I find myself always to be a resilient person, but it's not there anymore.
Okay. Can I speak and I want to ask consensus from my colleagues. Jim, if you need time off, whether it is right away until Monday or for an hour during convention, whatever it is, I have full faith in your team. And my request of consensus is for the team to support you if you want to take time off at any point, at any hour, for any duration in the coming month or week or weekend, whatever it is, whenever break you need, just tell us, tell Sonia, tell Emily, and they will pick it up from there. So what I want to ask, is the group okay with that? And are you okay with that, Jim? I want you to chat with Amy and really decide if you need a break or not for whatever amount of time.
Sammy, to be honest, that was going to happen anyway. That conversation with my wife has to happen. So, I need to listen to her and my body, to be honest with you right now. So where my heart is, it's always going to be with this association and making sure that the membership is taken care of, but I have to take care of myself now.
Please do. Please do.
Madam Chair, I don't know that I have anything to really add, except I just, Jim, this is really emotional. You know, to me, you are OSBA, and I have just heard so much about your leadership and observed your leadership. That your legacy is huge at this moment. And I honestly, I am being really selfish right now. I can't quite imagine us without you. And so I hope that there's a path that can include you. I really, really, really do. But what I want to say is, first of all, you are a human, and you are a person who, first of all, and what you need and what's the right decision for you comes first. And I'm really glad to hear that you're talking to your wife, because everything that affects you affects her just as much, speaking as a wife. And I know your family has made tremendous sacrifices for your career over the years. And we just, Jim, you're deeply loved and respected. And I just am sorry that you're in this state. I believe sincerely that there was absolutely no intention to put you through this. I think that I have some opinions about the legal counsel that was received that I don't think was in the best interest of our organization. And I also think we probably need to do some things to actually spell out processes so that people aren't stumbling around and causing these kinds of situations. I think we can do that, do a much better job. But you have, as I think you know that you have the support of, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, but it's based upon our Friday meeting, that you have the support of the entire board to do what you need to do. So, and I'm going out on a limb. I probably shouldn't say that, but I believe that to be true. Anyway, I'll stop.
Scott, your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam President. Jim, I just want to kind of formally say, in my tenure on the board, joining in January 15, you've been the steady hand at the helm that duration. And obviously, I have the utmost respect and appreciation, having had the honor and the privilege to serve as an officer of this association, representing OSBA both at the state level as well as the opportunity to travel with you on a variety of events. The respect that and I would say you have earned from our colleagues is second to none. And I have the utmost respect and appreciation for your leadership, for your skills, and your ability to connect people and unite them around common causes. And I think to the dialogue around this, that's why I think this process needs to be nailed down, because it frustrates me that this process can be deviated from what is established in our policies to arrive at where we are today. And it causes me no great frustration. And Sonia, I respect the fact that, having been in your shoes last year, that this is not an easy conversation to have as the president. But again, I will reflect back on where we are today and serving as the immediate past president, and recognizing that there were multiple off-ramps, which I think we can discuss here in the agenda, that I just really want to clarify why they were not adhered to. So, thank you.
Tammy, go ahead.
I think part of the courageous conversations, they say, expect no closure. And Jim, I just want you to ask Sonia to summon us anytime if we need to do anything. And again, just want to reiterate, if the rest of the team is supportive, And I think that's part of procedure. If you need a break anytime, even during convention, we're supportive of you. And we have strong belief in your team. They're going to pick up whenever you need to. And I'll leave it with that right now. I hope we continue the conversation in a place where it's exactly what you mentioned, putting yourself, your body, your health, and your family first, and the association as well, in a good path. And whatever that means, listen to take care of you first.
Emily.
I think what we need to do is figure out how we can adhere to the processes, like Scott said, and how we can adhere to the operating agreement so that this doesn't happen again. I mean, taking care of Jim now is obviously what we need to do, but it's sort of like, you know, the analogy of the people in the river, and you got to go upstream and figure out why that happened. Like, we can't just, this can't happen again. So whatever that looks like, that's what we need to focus on.
Thank you, Emily. All right, so we will suppose that we will now just wait to hear from Jim on next steps. Okay. All right, so we'll move on if there's no other comments on the first item. So we'll go back to the second item, where I mentioned the outside of council. So I mentioned that the intention of reaching out was to make an inquiry and not a claim. So I believe that that in terms of the policies that were mentioned, that if we feel that we have extra information, or that we wanted to do our due diligence and make that inquiry. But we'll move on to item 3. Sam, if you want to move on to that item, I'll share the notes that I have regarding that. So we have been aware of alleged actions that may put the organization at liability. And what was shared in the report, per policy, Sammy reached out to the Merkel Insurance Company. And so I will hand this over to him to discuss this item.
Madam Chair, given some of the information that has been received, that is in addition what we have received through the investigative reports, and some of it relate to the process as well that has been followed. And without going into further details, we need to communicate formally in accordance with our insurance policy all details of notice of potential claim, and we need authorization for that release. That's all material we have are sent to satisfaction of the adjuster. We need to request executive committee approval first to communicate with the insurance company, and officially memorializing the matter. Official memorialized matter is needed to comply with the insurance policy and with our own policies as well, to make sure we're clean. So just to summarize, this group needs to agree if we should have a formal notice of a potential claim. Nothing has been filed yet formally, but there are information that will need an insurance adjuster to review before we move forward because of the potential liability to the organization. And it appears to me that this is the only path to highlight those in an independent fashion.
All right, Scott, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to just clarify, have you already engaged with this? To me is kind of the cart, whatever the analogy you want to use, closing the door after the barn horses walked out.
Mm-hmm.
You've already reached out to Merkel without the consent of the executive committee, correct?
The question is for me.
Yes.
To answer is we have not made a formal claim or notice of claim.
The question I asked, did you already reach out to outside counsel without the consent of the executive committee? That's the question.
I did not reach out to a retained legal counsel, or I did not retain any legal counsel on behalf of OSBA, if that's the question.
But Sammy, the question
No,
is, did you reach out without consent of the executive committee?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again fully?
The question I asked was, did you reach out just and make an inquiry without the consent of the executive committee? Did you engage outside of counsel, which is, in my opinion, a violation of policy?
I have an answer and I have a comment, Scott, and can I say it with dear love for you?
Please.
And here it's really genuinely, like I'm telling a brother. The answer is no. I did not engage with outside legal counsel that I have retained on behalf of OSBA. I did not reach out to anyone other than Merkel to inquire about their policy and notify them that there might be a potential claim pending to the authorization of this group. So if there is any liabilities, we can move forward immediately. And that's why we're here. That's the process. Now, I want to answer the question and immediately follow with a very important thing, Scott. Again, I say it's in a matter of love, brotherly love, and also what I want to say, neutrality, if that makes sense. Scott, part of the information that's relates to the parts of the information that I have includes allegations. Some of it pertain to the whistleblower process and pertain to the topic of it. And you might need to consider considering recusal from the process or navigating this process in terms of there might be an investigation that relates to your knowledge. And I would say in terms of seeking neutrality would be very advisable to recuse yourself from the questions. That being said, I really value your request of accountability that we comply with policies, and I answer the question. The policy that you mentioned in the email 6400 request for legal opinions has been fully adhered to in my actions.
Madam President, Sammy,
Yes.
again, respect back to you. However, nowhere in this process has there been any authority given for engagement with outside counsel. So we
did not engage. I'm sorry, I did not get. I didn't. I just make sure you're asking me a question. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but I did not engage.
I'm not, Sammy. I am not done. I will let you speak. And again, you are seeing my frustration here. The process was pretty clearly laid out, and I have spent since last week poring over our bylaws and our policies. And did not see where you adhere to it. I've not seen any clarification about the executive director called out in a whistleblower complaint. I did not see any clarity in terms of policy 5100. All authority is delegated to our executive director. You do not have the authority to reach out, even to make an inquiry without the consent of the executive committee. I cannot find any of that. I would be glad to yield this if I had seen that our policies have been adhered to. I have not, and I continue to not see any evidence of that. And so no, I am not going to just relinquish and let you roll with it. In all due respect, Sammy, I've had a wonderful opportunity to travel with you, and I enjoyed getting to know you and spending time with you. But I think that this process has been goofed specifically because we have not adhered to the policies as they are defined, and there has been no communication. The conversation around trust is severely broken right now because of the fact that there has not been adherence to the policies as they are crafted.
Madam Chair, I believe there's
Yes.
attacks happening right now, and we need to refrain from them. I am open.
Yes.
My motion, or the motion that we need to move forward with. We need to engage the insurance related to, and that's exactly what I'm asking for. We need to engage the insurance related to allegations that we have. I did not engage on behalf, I want to make a clarification in my statement. I did not engage with any legal counsel retained by OSBA, or I did not, other than, of course, then independent investigator who reached out to us for setting the agenda, and also to make sure we're protecting the identity of the whistleblower. And frankly, that's where I need to stop sharing in that regard. But also, I want to be very clear: the policies were adhered to. In my opinion, I am open for an independent investigation to review the policies and make their judgments whether policies were followed or not, and share with them all the information that I have and all the processes that we followed. I want to be very clear that we need to be respectful of the whistleblower policy. That's if that's it. That's it.
So- Thank you, Sammy. So, I will go ahead and ask, Scott, you have your hand raised, and then Chris, and then I'd also like to make a comment.
Yeah,
Go
thanks,
ahead.
Madam President. I would, before Sammy's, and again, no offense to you, Sammy. I would like to, before Sammy's able to make a motion or vote, I would like to get to the agenda item in regards to the prior email I sent about Sammy.
Point of order, Madam President, it's out of
I am
order.
Okay,
in the
so-
middle of speaking, Sammy. Please show
Point
me
of
the
order
same
has a
respect
Okay.
and
Point of order
courtesy.
has
But
a
we have-
privilege. I'm here to stay. I'm staying here. Point of order. Let's move on.
No, I am speaking.
Points of
Sammy.
order.
I'm not
I
going to go
showed you-
anywhere. Let's move
No,
on. I'm
Sammy,
not going anywhere. Let's move on.
well, then that's fine.
So we need to, can
So,
we address the
Madam
motion?
Chair, if I may, I was in
yes.
the middle of speaking. Prior to allowing Sammy to make a motion or vote, I would like to have a conversation around Sammy's eligibility, given that he is an ex officio board member. Therefore, per the bylaws, as per section 3.5.4, he is not able to serve in the capacity of an officer.
Actually, that, I'm gonna say that we're not gonna discuss that,
Then,
because that is
Madam-
not relevant. That's not relevant to this item.
Then, Madam
Chris,
Chair,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. So I guess then I would just
That's
question
okay.
the ability for him to make a motion or vote, given that there's a question about his eligibility to be a voting member of this committee.
Okay.
think
He's
we
been a
make it
member of the
null and
committee
void.
for, okay, I've noted your comment, Scott.
Thank you.
Chris, go ahead. Chris, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know. I actually had a question about, before Scott spoke. I guess I'm going back to the insurance issue. I'm feeling the same that I did when we were asked to make a decision without any documentation. And I hear, Sammy, I hear that you can't disclose information. And I get that, but I also find it impossible to make a decision with, and I guess, I don't understand why. I'll just be honest. I don't understand why you can know it, but I can't know it if we're both on the executive team. And so I find, I guess there's things that I don't feel like I need to know, but I feel like our executive director may need to know. So, anyway, in other words, I find it very difficult to make a decision on this. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm not sure where to go with this.
I do.
Okay.
Emily's hands up.
I'll have,
Would you like me to answer it, Emily, or you want to go ahead?
I just would like you to share what the potential claim is.
The challenge that I have in this space, or even in electronic transmittal of email, I cannot, in good faith, I cannot transmit that information where it will be subject of public record release, or it may expose the organization to further liability. So the details that I can share right now in good faith is there are some possible future claims that will put the organization under liability. They are alleged. And frankly, I don't know if they're true or not. But what I know is there are allegations and they need to be handled. I am not the expert in handling it. And respectfully, for us as a committee, we may discuss it, but I believe it may not be proper right now.
so I do have,
But honestly, where I am right
I do
now,
have something.
I would like to seek counsel to help me out to how to do it. And according to how OSBA bylaws, I can't seek that through OSBA. That puts OSBA's best interests at heart. I am willing to do it personally and see how much I can share. And I will be very open with you all. I did retain, and I'll be very frank, $2,000 retainer, and my bank is $1,400. I promised for $1,800 to get out of my savings, and they told me, Sami, all what you can do is give a notification, and you can share that notification at a high level, and details you share it with the adjuster. And the adjuster decides whether they can retain a legal counsel that puts the insuree and the insurance as best interest, or the legal counsel, independent legal counsel that the organization may approve, may move forward with it. And I'll be very transparent with you guys. I'm reaching out to you, and I had to go this morning and find out how much details we can give. And this is the level in good faith I feel comfortable with that, without putting us or the organization at further liability. And I'm making that call. I want to be very, very discreet and not discreet, very doing the due diligence and walking that line.
But I guess my question is the same as Chris's, like, why do you get to be the one to know, keeping in mind that, like, we know as individual board members, we have no authority, right? We cannot act on our own. That's board 101. So why, like, how did this come about, I guess, and how is it being justified? Maybe I'm not sure what the right word is there.
Yeah, so in our quasi-judicial capacity, a board member or the president may or designee may be reached out for issues that is according to the whistleblower policy or whistleblower and non-retaliation protection policy. That's where individual board members may be privy to it. And maybe, Emily, you are very right. What can I do with it? Let's ask for legal counsel to help us navigate that process if that's where we want to be, or let's have an adjuster to help us navigate it if that's the next step.
Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I guess I'm just going to say, in alignment with Emily's comment, I struggle to understand how this can go, again, out there, engaging directly without the consent of the full executive committee, without sharing any information. And then in addition to that, being willing to put your own financial, like, this to me is totally off base and completely outside of the duties as a board member. And
I'm sorry, Madam President, may I provide points?
Yes, go ahead.
Now, I have the luxury, not the luxury, the prerogative to reach out to personal legal counsel. And I'll be very frank on the record. They were telling me, Sami, I'm waiting for you to say where things went wrong, and you're doing everything right, but you need to put the onus on the organization to follow through. So you need to report it at a high level, ask for the adjuster to be engaged. The insurance needs to know about this as soon as possible. So that's how I engaged. Number two, I have heard you, Madam President, I have heard the immediate past presidents mention multiple times allegations of me violating policy or engaging with legal counsel of OSBA or retaining legal counsel of OSBA, and that did not happen outside the process of engaging with the legal counsel that was previously retained by OSBA. In that, I am fully in compliance of policy, and any further allegations, I really ask for the discretion of the committee to say they are out of order. They can be investigated through a third-party counsel, and I am happy to cooperate with that and provide them all the information I have, whether about the past or about information that I have right now.
So I will say, and I'll have everyone else speak, that up to this point, the process with with sharing the whistleblower report and findings, I followed that process with legal counsel that was hired by OSBA. I did not hire them or engage them, but they shared the report, and it was their recommendation. The process that unfolded was on their recommendation to do so. And so in that case, that we did follow the process of the whistleblower complaint. What Sami has explained here is that we did reach out to make an inquiry. My thought was that it could be prudent to share the additional information, but do that in an executive session. And that was one course of action, and that would be one way to share the information with the executive committee, so they can make a determination, should we pursue or engage with insurance to provide protection for the liability of the organization. So I am open to that, if that is something that that you would like to do, because I am bound by the information shared, to not share that in an open meeting, but I'm happy to we can make a process where we can share that in an executive committee, an executive session, excuse me. So Scott, I'll have you go next.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I'd just like to share that I am not supportive of this action without clarity to what information it is. So I will be pretty staunchly opposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're opposed to the potential motion in this?
That is correct. I am not supportive unless there was more information given. I am not supportive of giving consent to engage with outside counsel unless there is clarity to what is being investigated.
Chair, can I ask the immediate pass what other path forward that he suggests?
Yeah, I guess, Sammy, with all due respect, I don't know yet. My thought would be that, you know, and I guess maybe it's just a different philosophical approach to leadership. I like to surround myself with people that are not me. I like to surround myself with differing opinions, but with the notion that I respect and listen to those opinions. And again, and I don't mean to be Sunday morning quarterback. That is not my goal, and I've been very thoughtful about not doing so. I think there is an executive committee with the intention that there are 5 of us. These decisions are hard. This involves people and monies and processes. I relied upon those around me, including several of you who are on this. It shocks me that this process has been allowed to move forward without the support, without the conversations that in my tenure on the board, I prided myself on being surrounded by those that are different than me, that have different perspectives, with the notion that I would rally around my team, both as when I started as an executive committee member in the secretary treasurer role, moving through vice president to president-elect to president and immediate past president. I prided myself on having conversations with those around me. And yes, this conversation is challenging, but I would have loved to have had this discussion when it came in. Here's what we're going to do, get the thoughts for that and proceed. I have not seen that. And so to the notion of trust, I don't have trust right now. And I apologize for that. And it pains me to say that because I have, and to your point, Sammy, I do treat each other. I consider all of the people on this horn today a friend. And it pains me to see this process. And again, the trust that has been lost as a result of it. I've had to endure calls from outside board members after meeting last week asking what the hell is going on, and then asking why didn't I do something? And I was told I didn't know anything about it. And they were shocked. Multiple of those that reached out to me were former executive committee members, including former presidents, asking the question of, and they were again shocked at the process that is unfolding.
Okay.
So I am not going to support.
Thank you.
Madam President, I just want
to. Madam President, I would like to jump in here. I think I had my hand raised.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to say, I think meeting in an executive session so we can hear much more detail about and maybe see something about what the concern is, and then we can as a group discuss it and make a recommendation and as a path forward. I feel like that would be comfortable to me. So I would suggest that we ask that we schedule an executive session. The other thing I want to say, and I'm going to say this again, Scott, was at the same level that you are in terms of what I knew about this process, and it was shocking and difficult for me on Friday as well. In my discussion constantly with Sonia and Sammy over the years, and in leading up to the Friday session, what I was told by them and continue to be told, and I believe to be true, is that they were acting on the recommendations of the council, of the legal counsel that had been contacted by the whistleblower, and that's who was directing this process. And in fact, Sonia told me that she had asked whether the executive committee could be engaged in the process early on, and the legal counsel cautioned her no. So she didn't want to be the only person making the decision with the legal counsel. She asked for another person and asked for Sammy to be part of that. And the optics of that are terrible. I also am honest with that. The optics of that are terrible, but I honestly will lay that at the feet of the attorney that was guiding this process. And that attorney did our association no favors whatsoever by requiring that level of confidentiality, where where our director was shut out completely. Should have been a level of communication early on so that he would have some idea. Maybe there was a communication. Maybe the legal counsel was assuring Sonia that there was communication, but maybe her communication was not what it should have been with our executive director. And the fact that Sonia Sonia told me at one point, Chris, this is awful. I don't want to be here doing this. Jim is my friend. This has been terrible. And what I hear is pain and anguish from every single person in this Zoom meeting, except for Emily, who is probably thinking, Emily Nishak, which is probably wondering what's going on. But basically, this is awful. This is awful. We have a lot of things that we can work on to make this better. But I would start with recommending that we have an executive session to discuss the insurance question, because I can't make any decision about that's. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, Sammy, I guess I just have a clarification question. So are you saying that this potential insurance claim, is that from the whistleblower that we know about? Or are you saying there's a second whistleblower that someone came directly to you about?
Gosh, we would have to share that in executive session. I'll let him answer.
Yeah, to answer the question, Emily, if you're comfortable with that, I would like to answer it in an executive session. And also I would like OSBA legal counsel to provide guidance if I can share it and how I can share it. That's all what I can say at this point. So I really want to answer this question, but I think Sonia is right. This is something to either be shared through a proper notice of a properly noticed executive session, and I think it's better to have a legal counsel who can guide us to be very strictly compliant with multiple policies that will be impacted. That's my answer. Sorry.
All right.
All
right. So, go ahead, Sammy.
I want to ask for guidance. I think we're all on the same page, and I want to extend to Olive Branch, Scott. We're actually exactly on the same page. We need to be following process very well, policies very well. I'm not with you on the same page in terms of the retrospective, and that can be shared and talked about. I don't think rehashing it here will be beneficial, but if there is a way to vet and reevaluate the process and provide recommendations on how we do better. We are a learning organization by definition, and we need to do that. We need to model the way of learning, whether there's institutional or personal failure. That's something we need to learn from, and we can't do it with immediate judgments. And I really ask us all to have that judicious perspective of there. If we believe there is a policy that has been not followed, ask questions or delegate someone who can ask those questions and then arrive at conclusions and have recommendations to move on. Now, where we are right now, I think we are on the same page that we need more information in order to determine how to go about it, whether to tell insurance, please help us with potential liability, or do nothing about it, or work with our legal counsel to do whatever we need to do about it. There might be multiple policies involved. There might be a need to evaluate if this is proper for executive session and what kind of notification for executive session have to be. And I have to tell you, I went through that in other organizations. We cannot do it alone. I strongly recommend what you all suggested. Let's move on with the executive session, properly noticed, and the notification is vetted And frankly, I'm willing to share that in advance with someone who can say, Sami, this is outside the league of any executive session. You can't share it. Then we have to come back to public meeting and talk about it. So in order to really vet it in terms of setting agenda properly and setting executive session properly notice, I recommend an independent counsel to be retained for the purposes of evaluating the concerns that we have and informing the board, the executive committee about those concerns in executive session. I believe that's the best path forward where we can all agree on it, in my understanding. I don't know what you all think.
All right, Scott. Scott, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess, Sami, I am supportive of learning additional information, but it's not the only caveat being the only engagement with outside counsel will be to arrange for them to attend an executive session meeting. There will be no further discussion beyond that. And I would, and I'm going to pick at this scab a little bit. I would like also to have, if we're bringing counsel into the conversation, to revisit the eligibility of an ex officio member serving as an officer.
To stay on topic, if you don't mind, can I ask if with this limited perspective, are we comfortable as an executive committee that we notice the executive session and take that risk that we notice the executive session with what we think is the right notice, and maybe we will be I can see the risk of violating it, and the best thing legal counsel will say, Sami, you're sharing something that you can't share under this notice. We have to terminate. So I really recommend if we can engage with them. I send them everything with client's privileged attorney protection, and not for me as an individual, as an officer, for the organization. So anything I transmit to them is protected between the organization and that attorney, and based on it, they can decide what notification subsection can be proper, if it can be proper, and assist Sonia and Jim and Linnell to properly announce the meeting and notice the meeting. So I hear the limited scope, Scott, but I think we should a little bit expand it to for me to be able to share all the information early on, so that we can notice it properly. And also maybe they can give you good guidance on what policy we should follow, so we can immediately move with next steps.
Chris, did you have your hand up first, or was it Scott? Thank you, Sami, for that.
I don't know. I'll go first though. I just okay. I've already played my hand. I am not feeling trust in Ms. Morrow, for one thing. So I need advice. Could we, that this seems in other circumstances when we go into executive session, is it, I believe it's probably OSBA attorneys that help determine the executive session.
I would not. There would be a potential conflict because they're employees of the organization.
So I would defer to our leaders, our staff, executive and deputy executive director to determine who might be an appropriate legal person to have, if there is a need to have a review.
Okay.
And to make the notice, because I know with an executive session, you do have to be as accurate as possible with what you're going, and you can discuss legal matters in the executive session. So I don't think that that's going to be a problem.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Madam Chair, actually, I think Sami had his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Sami. I'm sorry.
I'll go for it. I talked a lot today.
I guess, Madam Chair, thank you. Chris, following that logic, again, I just want to be clear. So we just think due process. Sami and obviously I've been noodling on this, right? Like you asked sort of what the next steps are. And Chris, I'm in agreement. You know, it's my opinion that we went through this process with the current whistleblower complaint. There's been no other allegations or complaints brought forward. I have the trust, and we just got done indicating that there was trust, and per the conversation with outside counsel last week, clarified that the executive director had no nefarious action. So I think, Chris, to your point, if we do have this notion that there is a potential additional whistleblower, I would defer that we engage with our executive director and let him help give guidance on how we proceed with the executive session and which respective outside counsel should be brought into the mix. He does not need to know the specifics that has the potential to impact him, but I think that he would be the one best suited to give us guidance and direction on this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Sammy?
I don't object. I just want to clarify the potential liabilities. The potential liability to the organization may or may not relate to whistleblower or additional whistleblower or other forms of liability. I'm sorry to be very vague. I hate to be very vague, but I am in agreement with the guidance that we're talking about. I would recommend, just to keep the integrity of this process very, very clean, that we retain independent legal counsel that has not been retained by any OSBA officers, board members, staff, or the organization in the past. So any information I can transmit to them to set the right executive session or any further actions can be done without any conflicts of interest.
Okay, so you're recommending we would have outside legal counsel that is not hired by OSB staff. Is that what you're saying?
By OSBA as an organization or any of its affiliates, board members, or staff. So that way there's absolutely no conflict of interest, and we can delegate that to the executive director to retain whoever they fulfills that criteria.
I see. Okay. I wasn't clear if it was Emily or Scott was next. Emily.
I just have a quick question, Madam Chair. I am not seeing
Okay.
on the agenda for today, I'm not seeing a motion associated with this agenda item. I don't believe, since the motion's been moved, approved, and adopted, I don't know that we can add a motion at this point.
So yes, we had a motion for I guess I didn't put that in the minutes. So we would need a motion.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. So I guess I would seek some guidance. I'm not aware that we can make a motion if we've approved the agenda without it being on the agenda.
Okay.
Madam Chair, and
Yes.
I don't honestly, I don't know the answer to that. What I know is that the board approved an agenda actions related to interaction with insurance claims adjuster. So if we will not engage with insurance and engage with legal counsel,
That's a different.
yeah, I'm not sure how we can go with that right away. Maybe we need to notice it and meet again.
That's I guess just, and sorry to speak without raising my hand, Madam President.
That's okay. So is that something we could add to Monday's agenda? I would add that motion. We do have a meeting scheduled on Monday.
Madam President, I was going to suggest that I would like to table this conversation until we can meet Monday and then have it, just given the sensitivity that clearly is involved with this topic from all parties, myself included. I would like to advocate that we table this conversation until we can have it formally on an agenda and follow it to a T. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Sammy.
Madam Chair, I want to disclose. I have no objections, but I have retained personal counsel to make sure I'm doing the best thing in the best interest of the organization first and foremost. And the recommendation is to urge for an insurance adjuster as soon as possible. The implications of not doing that immediately leads into potential losses for the insurer, which is us. So I want to just disclose in best interest and as an ethical obligation, I am conflicted between how much information to share and protect the integrity of making sure I share it in the proper way and allow this organization to move swiftly with getting coverage that limits its liabilities down the line. So I don't have any objections of meeting on Monday to consider retaining legal counsel and following up to that, noticing an executive session to share information. But I want to. I don't feel comfortable. I want to say this. We're taking the burden together, and I know I'm doing my best effort to tell you there is something that needs to be followed through. between now and then, I really hope there's no further liabilities for the organization. I really hope that whatever outcome is going to be positive for everybody. But I'm thinking out loud right now. I'm not sure how to wrestle with needing to act swiftly and doing due diligence. So yeah, I don't want to push for the insurance. I see there's consensus against it, but it is the best faith effort to limit the liabilities and for me to share my ethical obligation of allegations of liabilities to the organization that might be impeding or forthcoming.
Thank you, Sammy, for sharing that. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With all due respect, Sammy, again, respecting the notion that we're trying to move swiftly, I am also of the notion that we need to be very cautious. If there's clearly, as per your comments, great risk, I think that this association, this executive committee, the board members need to follow our policies and procedures. And to me, that would follow again with the notion that we're going to share information in an executive committee, executive session format and adhere to our policies. And I would prioritize the association over moving swiftly as a result of that.
Okay, so we
Clarification.
go ahead, Sammy. Go ahead, Sammy.
The swiftness of reporting potential liabilities is in the best interest of the organization, Madam President, because if there is any allegations and we know about it as an institution and we did not act on it accordingly, I'm not an attorney, but my understanding there is an obligation for an institution to act swiftly, following the process, following policies. And that's where I think swiftness and thoroughness needs to be acted upon at the same weight. And that's where I want to really highlight. We got to follow process. It says the prerogative of the executive committee to decide whether to trust one of its officers saying we have something we need to report. And I get it where we are right now. I'm willing to move forward. I just want to put us all on that's really unfortunate and awkward notice that we're sitting as an institution, we're sitting on information. My obligation, according to my legal counsel, personal legal counsel, is I need to present the need for engaging with insurance and seek approval according to OSBA and the insurance policy.
Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you again, Madam President. Sammy, with all due respect, again, just recognizing the position you find yourself in, I am not comfortable moving forward until we certainly myself have greater information through the course of executive session. And I'm comfortable waiting until Monday, acknowledging that there appears to be some degree of risk. I don't have clarity to what that is, but I'm comfortable weighing the balance of that till Monday when I can make a more informed decision about next steps. Thank you.
Madam,
Okay, so
I would like to put
go ahead, Sam.
I would like to put a motion that I suggested on the table for the record and make sure it is noted on the record or in the minutes that it's not being agreed to.
Okay, and you want me to put that in the chat?
I feel sad for that, but we got to do it. In my opinion, I have an obligation to go for it. Yes.
So the motion requested that you wanted to present that is here. Was that what you wanted me to share?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And it is
Okay.
in my effort to put on the record that I am strongly urging my colleagues on the committee that a formal notice of potential claim should be sent to the insurance company, which should include all material known by board members, including the president and president-elect. I strongly encourage the board to the committee to move forward and secondly properly second this motion and approve this motion accordingly to fulfill our obligations as an institution. And I would like that to be reflected on the record that I urge the committee to do that.
Okay. Okay. That should
My
be reflected.
apologies. May I ask for a clarification?
Yes, go ahead.
Sammy, was that encouragement or was that a motion?
Let's do it as a motion. I move a formal notice of potential claim should be sent to the insurance company retained by OSBA, which should include all material known by board members, including the president and president-elect.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I hear, do I hear
President,
first?
Not on, I'm not going to second it. It's also not on the agenda. So again,
It is on the agenda. It
Yeah.
is on the agenda.
I'm s-
Point of order.
there's no notion that it's a motion going to be made associated with it.
Why we're slowing
Really
down.
not.
Why?
But Sammy, I get the
Why we're
slowing down
slowing
part,
it
but
down?
But this is a public agency. Like, I totally respect the fact that you're concerned about timing. I'm concerned about ensuring that we are following our processes and procedures, and I totally understand and respect that. But I am not comfortable moving forward with this until more information is shared and until we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
That's okay. What I'm saying
Okay,
is
so
actions relating to interaction with insurance claims adjuster, point agenda item. I would encourage us to do this formal motion. I'm moving. It's up to the committee to do whatever they want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my attitude.
So am I, Sammy.
Really sorry.
So-
I need a break. I'm listening.
okay, so there is no second to the motion, so that fails. So that motion does not pass. So what I see here is that, or I understand that we need to table this conversation. We will notice an executive session, and that will include a conversation about retention of potentially retaining legal counsel after we deliberate as a committee. Am I capturing that? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Okay.
And Madam Chair, can I get confirmation from Lionel that a motion was properly made, it was not seconded, and my motion was captured?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we move on to item 4, whistleblower complaint. So I will just say, in terms of the whistleblower complaint, I followed the process from OSBA legal counsel regarding the whistleblower process. I have a documented communication on how I was to follow the process. This was asked and answered yesterday in our meeting. I did want to note for the record that there was in my conversations with counsel regarding this issue, she assured me that she was in communication with Jim about the once the meeting was noted, what would happen in that meeting, that would be a revealing of the summary, the findings, and the recommendations, and that was the only topic of the board meeting. She assured me that she reached out and confirmed that with Jim. Once we started the process to schedule the meeting, I also met briefly with Jim at a legislative dinner and acknowledged to him that the meeting was going to be scheduled and that I had seen the report and it would be shared with the board, and that was at the Albany legislative dinner. And so I wanted just to share that. And so again, I just want to reiterate what was stated yesterday by legal counsel, that when I received the report on October 6th, that I followed the process that she recommended in terms of reviewing it and making the determination to share with the board in executive session. And the request to engage with the executive committee, that is also documented, that she said that she recommended just to share the information in executive session with the full board. So I wanted to respond to that. And that was part of your question in your email this morning, Scott. So
Thank you.
so item 5, if there's any other comments on that. Okay, item 5, ex officio member and voting as an executive committee member. So I will say that, and this is in reference to Sammy, as an ex officio member, he has been participating on the executive committee, and has voted either by consensus or voted on items in our meetings. In addition to that, in subcommittee meetings, particularly succession planning, he has brought motions, or he has participated in that and also made decisions in that committee as well. So I just wanted to share that, and I don't know if Sammy is prepared to respond to anything else regarding that.
I appreciate that, Madam President. I really want to assume the best always, and it's just curious the timing why this is mentioned right now. However, I'll address the agenda item uh, with a level-headedness answer, which is we do have a legal opinion that followed the original legal opinion that uh, uh, immediate past President Rogers have been privy to, and my understanding of it, that yes, I am an officer. I was duly elected by the board of directors in the election in August, and my status as a board member of the organization transitioned from a voting member of the caucus from as a representative of the caucus of color on December 31st to an ex officio liaison who is also a board member and can be elected as an officer, being a representative from NSBA. That is the legal opinion that I am aware of from OSBA External Counsel. I believe the executive director has access to that as well. The fact that I've been elected as an officer makes me automatically a member of a committee, a voting member of a committee, not an ex officio member of a committee, being an officer. And that has been the precedent and the practice for about, where are we now? November, for 11 months. I also want to reaffirm that I want to reaffirm that I have reviewed after the comments have been shared. These notes, in my opinion and understanding, are consistent with our policies. And I really feel this is unfortunate. This is mentioned now after I have brought up, after I was involved in a process that I did not sign up for.
Thank you, Sammy. Scott.
Sorry, and just to be on the record, we did not sign up for, but we sworn to abide by it, and we'll follow it, and I don't regret it.
And again, Sammy, just to be clear, it is not intended to be a personal attack in any way. It caused me to go back through this. Well, that was not my intention. And again, just for the clarification's sake, I went back through these processes with the intentionality being of just refreshing it and ensuring that we're moving forward. That's what caused me to review this. It was not intended to be blunt, a pot shot at you. So please don't take it as such. Again, it is with the intention of protecting the integrity of the association. And when I read back through that, it clearly states the following individuals may serve as ex officio non-voting advisors. And that's the part that I wanted to have a conversation about. And so beyond that, I would beg to differ, Sammy. And again, it's not intended to be personal towards you, but it is, again, my interest to go back through this in anticipation of today's conversation. So,
Madam President,
yeah, go ahead, Sammy.
I really hate to go back and forth, but here's a few things I want to share. Number one, I feel this is an indemnity attack. It's not only a policy, and in systemic racism and systemic injustices, folks uses the policy when it is appropriate to change things toward keeping injustice. And I'm so sorry to say that to a dear friend. But that's how it's landing. It's not about the intentionality. This is how this is operating. I have moved during executive committee so many times. Why this is mentioned right now in November, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep my cool. So it's been since January to November. We have vetted that. We have checked that box.
We have checked it out.
Member of a committee. I am non-voting member of the board. I never moved well, I moved once and I was corrected. I should not move. And I never voted in the full board because I am ex officio. And as an officer, I have responsibilities as an officer according to the bylaws. Number one. Number two, in the email, my eligibility to be an officer was questioned. And that has been addressed through a legal counsel earlier this year when I was an ex officio of NSBA. And that is also addressed through the policy that the board may elect officers. It doesn't qualify. I think we need to clean it up one day. With all the above, I want to say I hear the concerns and I'm addressing them on their merits, but also I want to really say something to a dear friend, Madam President. Why now? I'm here to stay, and I'm here to help us all do the best thing for the organization and for our dear friends who work for this organization. And I'm committed to do it. And if we're going to bring this again, I'm willing to talk about it and address it on its merits. And I'm very willing to have a second opinion so we can do it. But I think that's a distraction.
Thank you, Sammy. Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Sammy, again, I'm going to reiterate, it is not intended to be anything but an objective review. When I go back to this documentation, whether you choose to believe that or not, that is sincere. So again, I resent the fact that you associate this with a racist attack. I take offense to that. Again, I consider you a friend, but when I go back through this and I'm trying to be objective and approach this from a process that is objective and fair, that's how I had to cycle back to this. I'm apologize that it came up now. That was not, again, ideal timing, but that is when I went back through the documentation. So again,
Okay.
I do consider you a friend. I resent the fact that you bring it up as a racist comment, because that is certainly not my intention. And I'm talking about it.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yeah.
I think my comments are being misconstrued, and I want to. This is the best way for us to learn with each other, and I have learned that the hard way as well. I have not said anybody has made racist attacks or racist actions. I said part of institutional racism is the use of policies when it suits changing things at a certain time, when
That's
it's
noted.
served institution. And highlighting institutional racism is different than a racist attack. So I want to make sure the record really clarify what I have said. And I'm sorry, Linnell, you're going through writing all of this, but it is how we learn from each other and with each other. We can use policies to uplift. We can use policies to destruct and isolate and push people away. And if this was a sincere, and I take it as sincere, but the effect of it, and here's the thing, the intention matters, but not
Matters.
effects. Institutional racism is about the effect, not the intention. Okay, and the effect right now, I'm seeing it on November 7th. This is being introduced after 11 months of serving as an officer and properly abiding by the policies and bylaws. And this is mentioned right now after I have been interrupted 3 times by the immediate past president, Madam President. 3 times I move, I make a discussion, and I get interrupted. And timing of the interruption really questions my sincerity of us moving forward, protecting the institution that we all love, and making sure we're following the process. So that's why I want to highlight the agenda item being included or introduced right now. The timing of it is curious. That being said, this is how we have to navigate institutional racism. Let's talk about process. We addressed the process. We talked about it. It's not a racist attack. It's institutional injustice that we're using the policies to slow down people or to shut them down or to even kick them out from serving for something that they've been elected to. And I take this not personally. I take it for everything I stand for. It hurts me a lot. It hurts me a lot. And I know it doesn't feel that way as an intention, but I want to be very clear. This is Madam President's landing.
Yep. Thank you, Sammy. I'll speak after Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I just wanted to, this is difficult. I just deeply respect and admire every person here. I want to talk about policies just a little bit. They don't ever cover everything, and it's always really tough. And we run into this all the time, right? That there's that one issue that to somebody feels like it may not be. Anyway, people can come down on different sides. I don't know about timing. I'm not suggesting that this is an urgent matter. I think if there's a concern, then probably that we have the ability to address that concern and have a policy review. We always have that. What I would say is at this moment during this time, I would suggest that we put that concern aside for right now. And we have these other matters that, in my mind, are rising to the top of the urgency of what this committee needs to deal with, and that it would be a good thing to just table that and not ignore it, but maybe pick that up after the first of the year. Well, I guess that's part of Scott's issue, but I guess, yeah, I get, to me, we have a person who is capably serving. There was a legal opinion that was rendered. In good faith, he has committed to serving. If we need to fix the policy at a later date, that might be necessary, but I don't think it's in the organization's best interest to make an issue of it at this time with this person.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I want to remind the committee, without suggesting any proposals here, but there are some options in front of the committee. If there's no trust in my leadership, here's the
Sammy.
I understand, but if there's no trust in my leadership, and there was a suggestion of bylaw change, in my opinion, would have disqualified me, but I had to speak up on the spot to change a bylaw suggestion. I don't know where it came from, but I don't want to rehash that. And we were in Hood River, we talked about it, but if there is distrust in my leadership and we're navigating the process to isolate me from it, I want to provide some recommendations here. Or if this is genuine institutional policy question about me being eligible even to serve as an officer, which is the will of the full board last year when they elected me as an officer, and I'm gonna fight for their will as much as I can. Here's the options. The full board may expel any of its members for any reason. I think for a cause. And if that's what's the hint of elevating that, I want to say, bring it on. If there's a cause, bring it on. Number two, if there's a genuine interest of me serving as an officer and continuing to serve as an officer, I'm happy to do that. I'll have a tough conversation with Lahui White Bear, who intends to apply for Len Benton Lincoln. I wanted to uplift my colleague and have her join and apply for an appointment. And I can have that tough conversation with her that maybe I should do that for continuing to be an officer. I hate to do that. It's against my personal values, but I want to lean in if that's what will correct our follow-up of policies. I can do that. Eventually, it is the will of this committee, this board, OSBA board, to decide if I'm worthy of appointments of LBL or not. And I would say I would agree with Chris. If this is a distraction, we should put it aside. We can question my legitimacy 20 times or one time, whatever it is. Let's do it. Let's get done with it. But there are other options I mentioned as well. Tools are easier to get rid of me if they want. If that's the intention. If the intention is to get it right, I can talk to Lou right now and tell her I need to apply for this, and we can see if the full board or the majority of the board wants to keep me in. So in conclusion, Madam President, I really want to ask, and I think in parliamentary countries they do this really well. If there is lack of trust or faith in me, I will step down, because this is a membership association and this is a board association. And I heard that there's broken trust, but if there's distrust in my leadership, let's bring it properly. Let's not put it under the guise of process and reevaluating opinions. We already have an opinion about it. We either move on, or let's talk about it in clear terms. Let's not make it subtle and implicit. Let's make it explicit. And let's talk about it. Again, Madam President, that with very, 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 very dear appreciation for my colleague. I'm gonna call him after this and see how can we move forward. But formally, I want to say we have options if there's lack of faith in me or lack of trust in me as a person who can lead. and happy to navigate whatever is the will of the organization. I serve at your pleasure.
So I want to say in agreement with Chris that I think this is something that we need a discussion we need to pause. There has been a legal counsel regarding your ability to serve as a officer, and you have done so the past year as a non-voting ex officio. And I think that there are other important things at hand that we need to address. So I'd like to table this. I want you to continue to serve. And I believe that our membership, our board does as well. And so I do want to pause that, and I want you to hold on to, I want you to continue in your capacity. So like Chris, I'd like to pause that and reconvene and discuss that another time. I think there are there is a remedy that we can do through policy to make that not an issue. But it's been my understanding with great deal of time and research and with the recommendation that you can serve. And so I want you to continue to do so. And so I want to echo Chris's comments that we pause this concern and we work on other things. So our meeting that's scheduled next Monday. With those other things that we had talked about. Yes, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sammy, following up on your comment, I would request that instead of meeting or chatting via phone, that you and I can discuss when we're in person together on Thursday. So, thank you.
You got it.
Okay. Are there any other comments before we close our meeting? Okay. Thank you everybody for your time this evening. We are adjourned at 5:33. Thanks.